Happy Monday. How's everybody doing? It's coming on at a different time. Trying to go live a little more. So let's see what's going on. Let's see. It says my bit rate's a little low, but sure that'll clear up. So we'll get it started. You see it. Gonna do a little GRC today. The FedRamp Cloud GRC Federal Compliance. So gonna get at it. You know how we do it. If you got any tech questions or cybersecurity questions, just drop them in the box. OG Patrice in the house. Thanks for joining me. Ooh, happy Monday. Once again, if you got anything cybersecurity or tech related, just drop it in the box. Gonna hit GRC, governance, risk, and compliance in the cybersecurity realm. Kind of hidden gem. You see the dollar rate down there. It's my Black Hike / Women in Linux portion of the show. So let's go and get started. Like I said, I was let's see, it's in the box. So you see the FedRamp, GSA. Of course, FedRamp is a federal compliance. Happy Veterans Week's Professor. Thank you. I'm not a veteran though, but I appreciate it. I work with a lot of veterans. I never actually served. I worked at DOD for a decade, but I never officially served. My father actually served. He told me it wouldn't be a good move for me, JM. I'm an only child. I'm hard headed. So, but no, my dad was he was in the Navy for 17 years. So I'm gonna pass that on to him. I appreciate that, JM. But no, I was in the military. I don't like to be shot at, JM. I grew up in the hood, man. So I'm not trying to get in some foreign conflict. So once again, if you got any questions, shout out to JM. He always supports. I always talk about GRC, governance risk at compliance is kind of hidden gem. A lot of people not aware of it. So we're just gonna break it down. FedRamp. I'll show my playlist at the end. I probably got 8 videos on GRC. Since that's what I do for a living, I probably start pushing that a little more. So I just took a late lunch and just decided to go ahead and go. Kind of slow part of the year, so that I would once again hit that in there and just start breaking it down. Once again, you got any tech or cybersecurity questions, put them in the chat. You know how we do it, so let's get it. So let's talk a little bit about FedRamp. FedRamp is really just look a little out of order. Let me change this around on the fly because I can do that. I want to do that slide. Let's see. I think I'm actually slide it around a little bit. Let's do that. Let's do that. Once again, FedRamp is controlled by the Joint Authorization Board. You see it there, JAB. It's made up of board representative of Department of Homeland Security, GSA, General Service and Administration, and you see a Department of Defense. The program is endorsed by the United States government federal chair. So at the height of it, what really is it? It's a way for DOD and the federal agencies to streamline or make as a standard the cloud, right? Everybody had their own data center. Everybody was spending a crap load of money. The Navy data center wasn't quite the same. The Army data center wasn't quite the same, right? So they were trying to get some standardization, right? And to be honestly, AWS kicked it off. Their data center, they just made it federally compliant, which is FedRamp. So AWS said, how can we get some of this Fed money? The government said, we need you to be FedRamp approved. AWS did it, right? Then the government's like, why should we spend all the taxpayer money? trying to build all this infrastructure and run it when we can have a third party do it, right? And Amazon was, once again, we know they're masters at delivering stuff and Christmas and Black Friday. What people don't realize is AWS make a ton of money, and I did a video on that. Most of their money made is on I take that back. Most of their profits made through AWS, which is selling computer power and computer resources to government and private industry, right? So that's kind of where FedRAMP came. The government want to actually outsource it, and one of the first people to do that was AWS. So there's two parts of the approach to obtaining FedRAMP authorization. A provisional authorization is through the JAB, we just talked about it, Joint Authorization Board, or through an authorization through an agency. An agency authorization path may work directly with the CSP, which is a cloud provider for authorization at any time. The CSP, once again, is a cloud service provider that make business decisions that work directly for the agency to pursue an authority to operate, which is ATO. ATO is just a piece of paper, a certification, and we're going to talk about that says your data center, your software is approved for government work, right? I do a lot of IRS work and the DOD work, right? I review a lot of that, and a lot of that work has to be FedRamp authorization approved, right? So the one we're going to focus on is authorization through an agency. So if you work for FERPA, DOD, you can see you got, when you go through a RFP process, you're going to buy a piece of software. That software you want to be used throughout the United States and standardized, you would get an authorization through an agency. So agency says, we want ServiceNow. The government said, okay, that's cool. We want everybody to use ServiceNow. So the Army's buying ServiceNow, so they're going to get authorization through an agency, right? So that's what I usually do work. I work for agencies, and I authorize or certify that software can be ran in a government facility or on a government approved cloud vendor. So let's dig into that some more. So part of the authorization is a third-party assessment organization. A 3PL plays a critical role in the authorization process of accessing software to a cloud provider. This is just a third party coming in and saying, we did an assessment on your software and it's approved to run in a government facility, a government approved cloud, or actually in a gov cloud. And we'll break those down individually. But those are the big guys, Booz Allen, and we'll look at, I got a list of all of them. So it's 20 of them. So they call 3PLs. They can come out and certify your software. Right? If you're a company, it's just basically like you getting a seal of approval from an accounting firm that says your books are good. Same thing with a 3PL. They're just saying your software is good. Do you have to be a cloud expert to become a compliance officer? No, I work with one. I'm gonna interview one. No, you don't have to be an expert. A lot of times that's how we make money, JM. I'm gonna say we. That's how I make money. I work for I'm gonna have a compliance director on. She's super duper organized. She's got all the stuff. She does all the paperwork. But I am the subject matter expert that works with the client compliance officer. And a lot of times they're going to partner with the IT organization, JM, because they're not going to know a lot of the IT software right from that side. So, and I don't know a lot of it. Like when I go to the Oracle guy, I know enough to be dangerous, but I expect the DBA to run my hardening for me, JM, or I tell them to run these Nexus scans to give me back all the findings, right? And I work with them to figure which one out. But no, at a high levels, no. Most of the compliance officers, really, they deal a lot with money and risk and insurance, right? So a lot of times, especially at that level, you right underneath the C-suite, JM. So now most of those people aren't super technically sound, to be honest. Let me know if that makes sense, JM. Once again, the independent third parties perform initial periodic assessment of a cloud-based system on federal security requirements. The federal government uses 3PL assessments as the basis for making informed, risk-based authorized decision for the use of cloud products and services. Doing a FedRAMP assessment, the 3PL produces a ready assessment report. I call it the RAR, which is required to the Joint Application Board process, optionally, but highly recommended for the agency process. and or security assessment plan. That's the SAP, and a security assessment report. And we'll look at those two that are submitted for authorizations for government authorization official, the AO. Right. So, and that's part of GRC, and we talk about it. You're just going out and giving questions to the DBA, giving questions to the developer, and they give you the answer back, right? And you create these reports. A lot of times, too, is you depend on the IT organization really to be technically savvy, right? So a lot of times people think as part of getting in cybersecurity, if you could get in doing assessments while you getting your technical skills up, right? So part of the things they do an assessment on is NIST 800-53. That's really what FedRamp is based on. So when we talk about doing assessment, we're looking over these control families, right? So we're just gonna hit these at a high level. So when you're looking at a cloud service provider or software, or I look at organizations trying to do work with the IRS, we make sure that they have these security families covered from a policy, procedure, and paperwork perspective. These 20 are, you see them: access control, awareness and training, audit and accountability, assessment authorization. I'm not going to read them all. The big ones now that came out that really got enhanced was risk assessments, because Casillas and them got tore up with the nation states, and supply chain risk management. From a GRC perspective, those are the real areas that really got enhanced. And this new release R5 has only been out, I think, a year. And I'm actually going to do a video. I got a video out there on this 800-53R4, but I'm going to do the gap between R4 and R5. Once again, these are the security families. And the cool thing is, and why you can make a lot of money in GRC, when you do assessment, system security plan, you saw that risk assessment plan, that's going to be about 1,500 pages of paperwork, right? Anytime you deal with the government, right? So if you can master that process, and you can become a project manager, auditor, assurance auditor. There's 4 or 5 jobs in there that they all make 6 figures, right? So I think everybody's keep everybody in the space now. You got to do a course. So Simply Cyber, he's a PhD named Gerald. I think he works at the Citadel. He got a basic GRC. I think I'm gonna put the NIST 853 on top of his, right? It's kind of more of an intermediate class. But now, once again, when you do your FedRAMP, it's based on top of NIST 800-53, and these are all the security families. And we're gonna actually start doing that as soon as I'm gonna actually walk through in a bunch of videos what an assessment looks like, right? What does a system security plan look like? What does a risk assessment report look like? And do all those reports in small videos and kind of make that a stream and add that to my GRC playlist I have. So that's kind of on my plate. Every video I say I'm doing, so shout out to me. But once again, there's all the security families, and these is you have to have an understanding. I wouldn't say you need to master them all, but I do sit a lot around with CIOs, CISOs, and I used to do that more. I don't do that as much anymore, but I do give people a risk assessment and tell them the risk of each one of these and how you plan them. Right. Some of these are systems, some of these are organizational checks, and some of them are both, right? So we'll peek into that a little bit. If that security family up there, we were doing access control. Now, each one of these breaks down into sub families, right? That's what you're doing assessment to make sure you're secure and to make sure you don't get hacked by a foreign nation, right? So under the NIST access control, those are the additional families: policies, procedure, account management, automated system account management, right? When you get your passwords, how do you do it? Automated temporary and emergency account, disabling accounts. How many times could you put your password in and lock them up? Inactivity log out, right? If you go out of town for 60 days, your account's going to automatically. Dynamic privileges, right? So when you dive down in each one of these families, there's probably 20 subfamilies in each one of these controls. So you probably had 200 or 300 controls, right, that you have to put in a federal site to make sure it's locked down for federal work, right? IRS, Health and Hospital, HIPAA, Department of Homeland Security, FISMA. A lot of them kind of rolls up into the NIST 800-53 family. So once again, and over here, O is for organization, S is for system, right? So policies, procedures, right? This paperwork, that's organization, account management, organization. I put that on the system too. Automatic system, then the automated temporary and emergency account, that's systems. Disabling accounts as system. O/S is organization and a system, right? Assurance is from a review standpoint, right? What are you assurance, right? Most of that's policies and procedure, right? So let's see. I answered him. Nope, you don't have to be a cloud expert. How about creating a course? That's you. That's you. That's your part, engineering cannabis. I'll support you. My machine learning is definitely at the remedial level. Nice. Can't wait for your course. Cannabis. Yes. Oh, he said him. I thought he said me. Now you're right. I'm up. Yeah, do that. That's you. That's you. I'm so tired. Yeah. Let me know if you need any help with that, man. I'll assist if you need any help. Yeah, you should do that. That'll be a hot course, engineering cannabis. I'll definitely share it. In each one of those families, once again, if you look, we're gonna dig into the NIST 800R5 a little bit later. But when you look at the documentation, this is what it looks like. You got your control ID, that's the family, right? The subfamily AU-4, audit security. Then they got the base control, what it's talking about, allocate record storage capacity, assignment organization defined, audit record retention. The organization, a little time. Remember, this is at the federal level. So IRS is the organization, FISMA is the organization, DOD. Each one of those capacity, depending on what federal organization doing it, would give you that. See, I do a lot with the IRS, so I know what those are for the IRS, right? Then control enhancements, right? So you got the subfelony, then you go one deeper, right? Control enhancement, offload the audit systems onto a different system and media, then the system can be audited. AKA, that's really a SIM. That's what they're talking about. That's one time you need an expert. When they say offload it to a different system or media, you can, but 9 times out of 10, especially for the bigger federal agencies, that's a SIM. They want you to offload that in a SIM, right? So you can report on it, set up alerts, set up triggers. You can compress the data. You can move it off-site. So offloading is a process designed to preserve confidentiality and integrity of audit records by moving the records to a primary system or a secondary alternative system. Because if you keep the logs on your web server and your web server gets hacked, the hacker has the system and the log, so now you can't track to see what actually happened, right? So that offload system, 9 times out of 10, depending on what government agency, is a SIM, right? So, the big one we were talking about was Splunk. Shout out to Keepy Techie. He did a SIM video. And 2 is, once again, the enhancement record, right? Private access, except for doing non-secure. The thing I like about NIST is they give you a nice discussion to help you understand what the subject is, right? Security related information and information with the system can potentially impact the operation of security functions or provision the security service in a manner that could result in a failure to enforce system security and privacy policy or maintain separation of code and data, right? So when they really dig down in each one of those enhancement families to help you understand it, right? So that's the cool thing. And 2, once you do it 3 or 4 times, a lot of times you get comfortable. And 2 is when you've been audited. I've been audited 4 or 5 times. So when you you do your, I would call it educated guess, your hypothesis, their auditor is going to let you know if you were right or wrong. The weird thing is sometimes the auditors on degree. One auditor says it's this, but they would give you their professional opinion, right? So then you start building your knowledge base of these controls through the discussions and actually getting audited in real life, right? So what else? We talked about I keep calling it the RAR, readiness assessment report, right? So what comes in the readiness assessment report? You get your requirements. You're going to talk about security encryption. There's a TLS encryption, your encryption module. Then you're going to break down your identification, authentication, and access control, auditing, alerting, malware, and incident response. People expect you to get hacked or been attacked before, right? So they want you to have this paperwork. So you have your run book, your practice. You got to practice an incident response, tabletop, or something real to make that happen. Shout out to Alonzo, the All-Star Advisor. Thanks for joining me. So we're just kind of touching on the people. What would you need to do FedRAMP assessment? Contingency planning and disaster recovery. All right, contingency planning is a little easier. We used to be like, okay, if this building got attacked, what building would you go to? Most people work from home, so that makes the contingency planning on that easier. But the DR part, shout out to JM Cloud. I do AWS. I would just have it set up to automatically roll over to a different region. I would use auto scaling groups, so when the traffic went over there, it would scale up, and get to the size it needs. So especially when you're doing disaster recovery in the cloud. But a lot of people are still on-prem in the government. So where is your disaster recovery? Is it in a separate building? Or a lot of people are actually at least putting their DR in the cloud. So if you're on-prem, something happens with your DRs in the cloud. Configuration and risk management, right? So when you have configuration of software, configuration of your VMs, just configuration of everything, your database, if you need to roll back to, then part of that too is what's the risk if something happens? Do you have a DR site and a contingency planning site, right? We looked at all those subfamilies and enhancement controls. Which one of those you couldn't get done, right, is going to make your application, your data center, your program more riskier, right? So you take all of those, we call them open findings. We're going to get to that, right? Open means you don't have it configured correctly. What's the risk of you not having that configured correctly, right, from your risk management? Data center security. Most people are in the cloud, right? So that takes care of a lot of that out the box. But and two is policies, procedures, and training, right? That lets you know you have management and organizational buy-in, right? Policies, procedure, trainings, awareness training. Everybody takes security training. Most of it's not good, but at least employees and customers know you're at least thinking about security. Shout out to Ty, doing big things. Yeah. The money to be made from recruiting companies, recruit 5 SMEs for the cloud jobs as a federal contract. Oh, facts. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. That SME and federal money is what's happening. See how this once again, other things you need. Once again, we're talking about FedRAMP. What do you need to get certified? What do you need if you want to get in GRC, and what type of items would you be listing? So I just took the list of tables from that, and it just gives you, once again, some of the paperwork you need. We talked about some of these already. System information, FedRamp authorization, external systems and services. They want to know everything you touch, the touch points outside that system, right? You can have a third-party API, third-party HR. What are those particular points? Number one, if we need to fail over to a different region, how do we get those touch points again? And I forgot that one company, I think it was Carousel. When they got hit, they couldn't play their employees, right? Because the HR system was toasted. So we want to know all external systems and services, right? Because if anything happens, we need to know how to, like we talked about, disaster recovery and get those resources back up. APIs, everything's done on API and gets called by API. Federal mandates, once again, who you reporting to, HIPAA, IRS, some of those have different mandates. Cryptographic modules, that's just encryption. TLS security, once again, encryption. We talked about these. The new part on there is missing policies and procedure elements, security awareness, change management. How are you keeping track of change management in your organization, right? So you know what you need to get done and how you need to roll back. So that's one thing they want you to have. Continuous monitoring capabilities, maturity of the system security plan, controls designated as not applicable, and controls with an alternative implementation, right? So the 416 controls with alternative implementation. Sometimes the hardening is going to say harden this way. You say, no, I've got an alternate, right, way to do it, and I believe it's more secure, right? So you will type that up, document it. Then when your auditors come in, they'll let you know if they accept that, right? We also call that a mitigating control, right? So usually you have cat ones, twos, and threes. It's mostly a bell curve. So cat twos is a whole bunch. So those you can have alternating implementations or mitigating controls, but the auditor has to agree that that control is you could do an alternative solution to that, right? And we're going to walk through that later, probably not in this video, but different alternative solutions, right? So once again, getting it done, trying. So your standard kickoff meeting, you would do your background and the functionality of your cloud services, the technical security of the cloud service, system architecture. We're going to look at this coming up to authorization boundary, data flow, and core security capabilities. So I do a lot of RFP reviewing. So a part of that, me reviewing security for a government solution or system, those are the things we're looking for, right? If it's in the cloud, what's your service? What's your boundaries? What's your system architecture? I like to see that so then I can see your data points, your flows, your inflows, outflows, your data flow, and what's your core security in there? Are you using databases and encryption? Are you using TLS because it's a HTTP web server? All of that's going to be discussed in the kickoff meeting, right? Customers responsible for controls that must be implemented and tested by the agency, the compliance gaps and remediation plans, a work breakdown structure, milestones, and next steps, right? So that's really your project plan, right? Compliance gaps, like we talked about. We want all this stuff hardening. What you couldn't harden, right, is the gap. And if you couldn't harden it now, in the future, do you need more money? You need more time, or is it just can't be done, right? That's going to be part of your remediation plan. And part of that, you could be like, I'm accept the risk, right? We think we got enough security and we don't have to do that, right? But that's going to be part of your compliance gap and your remediation plan, right? So, two, once again, that's part of GRC. That's working with a lot of teams. And like I said, when I do this in real life, you're working with the DBAs, the developers, shout out to engineering candidates, the AI and machine learning people, right? Because each one of those people or organizations or divisions got things they need to harden. So if they can't get those things hardened, right, we're going to have a compliance gap with a remediation plan and stuff that needs to get fixed, basically, right? So then the second part of that, you're going to do a full security assessment. 3PAs perform an independent audit of the system. Those are people that been designated by the government that can do this type of work. Prior to the steps, the CSP should ensure the SSP is completed, have been reviewed and approved by the agency customer. Additional security assessment plans should be developed by the cloud service providers, 3PL, and their authorizing agencies. So you want a system security plan, a security assessment plan, a security assessment report, and a plan of action and milestones, right? So those are kind of the big four right there. And once again, also going to be like probably last one I did, I want to say was 2,500 pages, right? So those get pretty big, right? So then the agency authorization process. Once again, we're gonna review the documents we just looked at. We're gonna debrief. We're gonna do remediation. The agency is gonna do a final review. The agency is the government agency you're trying to get your software approved by, right? You're gonna get an agency authority to operate. Then you'll get a project management office review, right? And I got a slide graph coming up that makes it a little more easier to read, right? Then after the Post authorization is you got to do continuously monitoring to make sure stuff's not being changed. Remember, we did a schedule, which is POA&M and Milestones. So a lot of that stuff we need to be fixing with the continuous monitoring, right? We couldn't do this type of encryption. Now we got a new budget, we got some money, so we can afford this type of encryption, right? You got to do it annually, right? That's what keeps your compliance and your GRC team working and paid. Most government organizations, you got to do this annually, right? And most times when you do it annually, they want you to send a report to your oversight agency. Once again, Health and Hospital, IRS, FSMA for DOD, right? They want you to send the annual assessment to them. So let's just talk about from a NIST perspective, continuous monitor strategy based on risk tolerance that maintains a clear visibility and asset and awareness of the vulnerabilities. So the two things in there is you got to have asset tracking where all your phones, VMs, cloud, EC2s, when you're a huge organization with thousands of EC2s, it's hard to keep track of more 30,000 laptops. I worked at a large state organization, right? So you'd be having 30,000 laptops and 20,000 phones, right? So you need to make sure you keep in track of all that stuff in the where. Then the other part of that is how are you keeping measures, metrics, and status monitoring of the control of an assessment frequency. Right. Security controls effectiveness in a manner that supports continuous operation within an acceptable risk tolerance. Right. So if something gets hacked, something gets turned on, hacked or attacked, are you still in the same risk tolerance? Right. Implement a continuous monitoring program to collect data to require for the defined measures, reports of findings, automated collections, analysis, and report on data where possible. We're going to look at that. Amazon has AWS has a ton of services to help you do that, continuous monitoring collection. So we'll talk about that from a cloud perspective. Just touch on that a little bit. So once again, I'm just kind of hitting at a high level what that looks like. So basically, cloud service offering an ATO, which is authority to operate. So we talked about these two. The JAB is if you go to the joint boards, which is the DoD, GSA, and Department of Homeland Security. You can give your software to them directly, right? The board, which approve your software. And once again, most people go through the agency at the bottom. Right, agency ATO, authority to operate through an agency authorization. You're selling your software to HIPAA, hospital, FSMA, IRS, and since you're going through that agency, the agency will review your paperwork to see if you pass. Right, so those are just two ways to get a FedRAMP approved software. All right, so that's kind of it. What we were talking about. Those are the plans at the bottom. So you start off with the partnership established, full assessment. We talked about the SAR, System Assessment Report, Agency ATO Authority to Operate, FedRamp Authorization. Right, and those are your steps at the bottom. Planning, review SSP, review the SAP, Security Assessment Plan, the SAR, Security Assessment Report, POA&M, Plan of Action and Milestone, remediation, all the stuff that didn't work that you scheduled. Right. So that's kind of the flow of what you would do to get FedRAMP approved. And those 3PLs are about $250 to $300 an hour for a junior person. Right. So that's something we need to get into. But once again, I just want to talk about from a GRC perspective, what would a FedRAMP ATO look like? Right. And how would that actually work? So FedRAMP authorization, I'm just going to skim over best practices. Understand how your product maps to FedRAMP with the gap analysis. Get your organization to buy in. Find an agency partner. Spend time defining your boundaries, internal components, external services. Think of FedRAMP as a continuous program rather than a project start and end date. Yeah, it's a program because you're going to get audited every year, right? When you do FedRAMP. So it's not a start and stop, it's a continuous thing. Carefully consider your authorization approach. Like I said, most people usually go through the agency part. The FedRamp PMO is a valuable resource. They can answer technical questions. So once again, FedRamp, they want people and government agencies and companies to do it. So they actually got a project management office. So you can shoot them questions, asking them, are you kind of doing something correctly? Before you spend your money on your 3PL to come out, right? Because you're gonna probably spend $10,000 or $20,000 getting your 3PL to assess it. So they give you offers to make sure you got the high level stuff taken care of right before you call them out. And a lot of times people reach out to me, and I kind of help people with that initial feedback. Getting that done before you call out the 3PL. So when you do a NIST, which is FedRAMP, they got impact levels: high, medium, and low. High is the loss of confidentiality, of integrity, and availability, and it has a severe catastrophic effect. Uh, Moderate is 325 controls. You just has a serious adverse effect on your organization. High is severe catastrophic. High is usually life or death, right? Most things fall under moderate. I do a lot of IRS work. Those are moderate. Nobody's going to die if your tax system doesn't get hard. Then low is limited to adverse effect, right? Our contract, let's see, our contract companies that work with DoD also required to follow FedRAMP guidelines. If they keep any of the data in their systems, they do. So that's a yes and no. If you're getting some actual data, but if you're not actually keeping FedRAMP data, um, you don't have to. But most of those companies are. They are at that level, JM. Because number one is that's how they practice with their junior people. They practice on their internal policies and procedures, and how they're saving data and how they're moving data. Because really, realistically, if you're not keeping federal data, if you don't have IRS data or HIPAA data, you're not. You don't have to be under that level of security, JM. But once again, most of those companies are just to make it easier on them. So, what is a 3PL? Third party assessment organization plays a critical role and authorizes the process for assessing security of cloud service offering. I put that in there because I think that's a role under IT auditing and assurance, right? It's a 3PL. It just means you've been certified to do that work by the government. As independent third parties, they perform initial periodic assessments of cloud systems based on federal requirements. The federal government uses 3PL assessments as the basis of making informed risk-based authorization decisions on cloud products. Once again, the FedRAMP, we talked about those reports: the RAR, the JAB, the SAR, and the AIO. Security Assessment Plan, Readiness Assessment Report, Security Assessment Report, and Authorizing Official, right? That's what the 3PAO does and brings and charges you a lot of money to do, right? I won't say the sad part is you got to do that to get whatever software you want into the government, right? So, and we'll look at that. So, the 3PAOs, they're seeking FedRAMP. Basically, that website down there, A2LA, is where you would go to get a 3PO approved. They got videos and software for you to kind of get prepared to take that. It's a certification for you to get that, but they actually get a certification to the company. So Booz Allen has one, so you could go through Booz Allen to become a 3PAO, right? But I think once you get it through the company, I think it's attached to you as the person, which is kind of weird, right? It's kind of monopoly. It's right. They monopoly. So an organization that wishes to become accredited FedRAMP 3PA must spend at least a year in cybersecurity inspection body program in order to demonstrate the level of technical competency prior to consideration for FedRAMP 3PO recognition. Right. So you got to spend, what was that, a year in cybersecurity inspection body program. The list of federal approved 3PLs can be found in the FedRAMP marketplace. Especially program is covered of the A2L inspection body accreditation. You need to be ISO and IES 17020, ILA CP 15, which is ISO 1720. accreditation of inspection bodies, and R311 specific requirements for federal risk and authorization management program. What's up, Savage Scientists? I enjoyed your C++ video. Go check my man out. I'm about to come out of my retirement, man. I'm start programming in 2023. I don't think I'm gonna be doing C++. I'm gonna be doing Java, but I enjoyed the C++ video. Our contract to come. Nope, we just read that. FedRamp will cover all sections of federal government, DOD, and many more. See, lots of like facts. They cover anything in the cloud. They cover. For sure, they check. I'm sure me and him gonna collab. I keep saying I'm gonna do CISSP in 2023, but we're gonna see how that's gonna go. I'm getting too old. I'm gonna have to get a baton to savage scientists, man. Them long, them certs be brutal. Nah, but check him out though. Yeah, he's growing his channel, man. He's got some good stuff. Let me see. I think he a moderator. I got Savage Scientist. Throw your channel in the chat. I ain't got many people watching, but learning Python 3. I'll probably do Java, Ty. I probably do. Savage Scientist might add Python to his training. Once again, Savage Scientist, drop your channel in there. You got the rent. So yeah, go subscribe to my man. We gotta get his count up. So these are some of the 3 PAOs that we talked about that assess. Coalfire is one of the biggest. Kratos, they're one here. Spellman. So I actually thought about maybe going to work for one of the 3 PAOs, but you be flying all around the country, man. I like sleeping in my bed. It might be a little more remote now, but these are some of the 3 PAOs on there, and it tells you how many assessments they did. I was surprised Coalfire was killing the game because I heard of them and they're big. I never really think of them on that level, right? So we might go later on and look out there and see if they're looking for anybody out there. But no, shout out. These are the 3 PAOs. Once again, I went to the FedRamp.gov. They actually have an assessor site, so I'll pull this off of there. Once again, Coalfire. I don't know if they the most cost effective or what's going on, but yeah, okay. Yeah, see, that's a good cert. Yeah, that's the cert. That's a killer cert. I'm not a huge CISSP. Once again, I took it 15 years ago and I missed it by 6 questions. I got my Security Plus. That's a mistake I made. I should have went back after I got my Security Plus and got back on my CISP. Once again, I just been lucky over the last 20 years. People invited me to jobs, so I've never really needed a certification. So that's why I did. But from my point of view, that was a mistake. I should have went back and got the CISP immediately. Now I'm like 15 years later, I'm like, I need to take it. So just pulled off one of the FedRamp. Oh, that's funny. We were looking at the Coalfire right there. Let's back it up. Let's link it up. Coalfire at the top. So I just Googled something on Indeed. So it's the Coalfire. They looking for a cloud security strategist. It's been posted for 30 days. I just got this out. They paying a shout out to Engineering Cannabis. This is my TAM. They paying $263,000 a year at the top, right? When you get some of that TAM, Women in Linux money, some of that Black Heights money, right? Professor Black Ops thought he was making money till, but then I started seeing those numbers. I'm like, ooh, I ain't up at that 263 yet. My Security Plus is current tie for me, and my I don't know if you're talking to me or my current one is my Security Plus is current, and I have 5 AWS certs. So this was the year I was getting my AWS certs. Next year I'm gonna try to get the CISP, the CISA, and the I think it's one risk in there too. So those are the ones I'm gonna try to get next year. I'm talking a good game, Ty. I don't know, man. I'm tired already. Just lining up those statements. Oh, facts, man. That's the TAM layer facts, man. So if you get your FedRamp, you get your cloud. There it is, U.S. Cloud Security and Risk, providing guidance and strategy. I think I'm on that level, but 263. But I think they want you in Denver. It's in remote, but it says in Denver. I hate when they do that. They say need you to get on site, but just wanted to show some of the bigger numbers, right? They had a few, most of them really realistic was low hundreds was really most of the stuff in cloud. But they did have probably 30 jobs in the above 200. So I want to be realistic when I talk about it. I think we talk about numbers kind of like it's not realistic. Yeah, shout out to that. I enjoyed it too, Casual. How do you renew Security Plus and do AWS search expire? AWS search expire after 3 years, JM. Security Plus, you got to take continuous education. Then you email those continuous education to, I can look it up. They give you email, and I said, because I used to teach. So for 10 years, I didn't have to worry about continuous education because when I taught a class, I went for continuous education. Then I take security awareness at work, when I was doing that. So we put those together, that's all I needed to do, JM. so now since I'm not teaching, I got to figure out. I got to start taking those CVEs, continuous education. But I'm tired of certain. I'm tired of certain. That's part of the game, though. But you got to renew them, Ty, because that lets you know people current. Because you got to think, man. I got my degree in 1990 in computer science. Man, most of the stuff I learned is almost I wouldn't say antiquated because savage science will tell you syntax is syntax in programming, but there's been a lot of changes since 1988, since I did my first intern in 1990 when I got my degree. So that helps you keep up on stuff. I don't know about what AWS. Yeah, AWS is good for 3 years, then you have to renew. With a boating coop, with a boating coop. Ooh, I would have to. Ooh, I don't know, JM. I'm like savage scientist on that. I would think straight coding boot camp. I would now don't quote me. I would have to email. I don't think a straight coding boot camp would qualify, JM. I think if you went to some kind of secure coding where you was talking about, I'm doing validation, I'm talking about the OWASP top 10, I'm talking about encryption in my coding, I'm talking about handling wallets in my coding, um, cryptographic modules. So I'm encrypting stuff, saving it into the database, JM. So I don't think a straight coding boot camp would count, but I would double check. Can you tell? But PBO can tell you about that. Yeah, AW. No, there's no continuous ed. It requires after 3 years. Yeah, I was actually just looking at it. Once again, I got 4. I'm hoping to take my SysOp in the next 2 weeks, then take my professional architecture one. That's the one. Ooh, I was looking at those. Those are super hard. So now, no continuous ed. After 3 years, you got to give up your money again, right? So once again, this is my TEM. I'm gonna have to tell her Sunday. I was talking about this is my TEM on Saturday. Get the 263. Get the call fire. They were the top 3 PAO right for assessment. They're looking for a cloud security strategist. Just make it 263. Man, them now. Whew. I'm old. I ain't never made that. And 2 is we went to the FedRamp.gov. Then you can look up on software. So I looked up the Amazon cloud. It lets you know when they were authorized. Let me move that out the way at the bottom. They were authorized in 501-2013. It tells you the AWS US East and West at the top, what they were authorized up there. 2 is you can actually request their system security plan and all that paperwork we were talking about. The only not a problem. You got to have a .gov email though. I did it from a big state client and they said no, I couldn't get it, but it was all good. I talked to the company, they sent it. I just couldn't get it from FedRamp.gov. It tells you too what service models over there. It's got infrastructure, platform, and SaaS as a service. Public cloud, like we talked about, it's the impact level, moderate. Remember, there was the 3 impact levels. The thing, oh, that's funny. Once again, Coalfire, the one here making 263, they came out and did the assessment on Amazon's cloud data center. So they making all the money. They got assessed in 2017 from the JAB, right? Remember there was 2, the board or the agency. So they got JAB approval, 2017 again. I think every 3 years you got to get approved and get reassessed, right? So Amazon said we're good. Even our commercial, we can run government work. Our U.S. East and West is good. All models, infrastructure, platform, software, we're moderate level. So if that's what you're looking for, give us your money, government. That's what they're saying. That's why Jeff Bezos is making all that money. Shout out to him. So let's see. Okay, I also attended school for cybersecurity specialist, so I would probably, yep. If I attain a higher security cert like ethical hacking, can that also be used? Yep. That could, I know that definitely can. You can use that as a continuous edge for your security plus. If you go out there, look, they show you which ones roll up to which ones, but I'm 99% sure they were going back and forth. If you get plus, that goes for ethical hacking, and ethical hacking goes for plus. See what ties it. How do you keep motivated in your career when the journey seems off? I'm in a room occupied, not feeling it. It's not cybersecurity. For me, I've been there, man. I had one job that sucks. I always thinking, shout out to Tam and your skills are gonna stack on each other, Ty. So even though this job's not going away, you work after a year. Once you get your skills, you can take whatever you learn to another job, and all that experience will roll over with just you growing as a person, your skills getting better, and it's gonna roll up to your money, right? After a while, you get to that sweet spot where each year you start making more money and they start stacking, right? I'm at the point in my age where I'm old and I make a lot of money, so people be trying to fire me. Shout out to the old people, but no, Ty. So that's kind of how that's gonna work. Two is I always think, and I still do this. Me and my son argue. I always try to think 3 years from now. What do I need to do to help me get 3 years from now? I always laugh because young people go, 3 years is so far. But when you get 55, man, your years just start flying by. So that's how I do it. Ty, I just trying to focus on what what do I need to do to get to the next step. Let's see. I have pens. I have my pen plus and sec plus. Oh yeah, and all those skills once again are going to stack on each other because I'm not. I don't do penetration testing. I'm okay at it, but as a blue team, when I set up and we're going to look at AWS infrastructure, I pen test my own infrastructure, Ty. So I got to have at least my understanding, even if a lot of times I'm just hitting the button, right? Nmap, Cali, right? A lot of them have vulnerability scanning, right? But I need to be able to read it. I need to be understanding the boundaries. So all that stuff's gonna stack on what you're gonna do in the first. You got to remember, Ty, I started off in programming. I programmed for a decade. I just kind of fell into cybersecurity for as an accident. My first love is programming. I just make more money doing cybersecurity than I do pro. If I could go back to Java, Spring, Hibernate, and make what I make in cybersecurity, I probably would be a programmer. The other thing too about which is cool, and I'll let Silent Scientists chime in on that, is a lot of times too is programming sometimes give you PSTD. I put some stuff in production. I tested it. I tested it at QA. I put it in production and it went left. And I was struggling trying to figure out what happened. People were yelling at you. Man, you can get PSTD program depending on because too is I was programming for DOD. So when something worked, certain people wasn't getting paid, people might not get checks. So man, that for a minute, man, that programming for a while, man, it could be rough on you, man. You know, right? Just shout out to Cyber Scientists. Cyber Side. I be going for walks today. I be tired walking, man. But I feel you, man. But then I be telling people my first intern was in 1988, and a lot of people wasn't even born Cyber Scientists in my channel. So I feel you. Shout out to Calvin Henderson in the house. He got me. What I had him on my list. What I was gonna talk about I was gonna do a video on the Mastodon thing. I was gonna do a video. Shout out to Calvin. I was gonna do Mastodon. We all leaving Twitter and going to Mastodon. I never see course ML and cybersecurity search patterns or hack. No, you're right. You won't see engineering count because we're so far behind. I did a couple videos where AWS has that built in, and I think we're gonna look at it a little bit in compliance, but you don't see that very often. That's actually at the top of the pyramid engineering kind of. We barely doing basic stuff in cybersecurity. Brother Michael, peace. Oh, let me see. Let's see. Professor, I would like to pen test. I'm still figuring out my career at 43. Oh, you cool. Pen testing. I would reach out to Alpha Cyber. I'm trying to get to Alpha Cyber pen testers in this area. I'm trying to think who else. Alpha Cyber. There's somebody else. I will reach out to him. That's kind of his. He's red team offensive. The only thing about pen testing, Ty, I'm not dissuading you for that. DOD, we have to pen test. We didn't have that talent on staff. We outsourced that because we pen test once every 3 years. We did pen test plus a full red team offensive. We actually gave the company low level passwords of users, and we put them in a conference room so they can be inside our network while they actually attack us. I don't really see that talent on staff a lot of times, Ty. I think that's a special company. I know there's a couple companies in the Midwest we use, and I was actually talking to one, but I've seen you on Alpha Cyber Channel, so I would reach out to him on that pen testing. I've been studying tech for almost 2 years. I have not worked in tech yet. I have over 10 certs. I feel like I need to learn more than them. No, that you good. Now you overcerted, JM. Now I don't think those certs are gonna hurt you. What did you do now, if you don't mind me asking? You could, if you don't want to answer, you can always decline. You won't hurt my feelings. Make sure that if you have not voted, that you get out facts. Then the day have to start advocating who won the day before. No, you facts. I co-sign that, and I got to do a better job so I can get my old ass out there and vote. He is 100% correct. Let's see. Yeah, I don't agree with Elon turning into a political statement. Yeah, I don't. Shout out to Elon, man. That's generating him money, man. That's generating him money. Let's see. Let me keep rolling. I spoke to Diamond and Charles and a few others. Yeah, that's probably the pen test crew. Ty, have you applied for some pen test jobs? And two is once you look into, once again, I'm on Amazon, so I always use them as my guinea pig. They tell you which their services are FedRamp approved and can be used for the government. And at the top, they have a government cloud just for government agencies. They're in their cloud. Then we looked at East and West as FedRamp moderate, so you can actually run government workflows on there. We have vigorous discussions at work. Should we run our government work on a commercial cloud, right? Even though East and West is approved, then two, the East and West data centers approved. Amazon tells you which services or programs are approved to the left, right? The majority of stuff, because they do so much government work, is approved, right? And they tell you if it's in the commercial cloud or the government cloud, and it goes to each one of their services and programs. So when I renew, and Calvin actually threw this out to me, and we're going to do that in the video. When I review a service or a client in the cloud, I go through AWS and I make sure each one of the services they're using in their architecture is approved for federal work. And you will be surprised how many are not. And they'd be like, oh, no, we're running this at the Navy. I go, you should not be, because that service is not approved. How do you get that approved? And they'd be like, we don't know. I'd be like, wrong answer. So that's what I do. And we're going to do that in the video. Take a service from AWS, look up the services, and make sure they're on this list. Then we're going to look at the architecture. Because just because there's services on here, do you have it configured and implemented correctly to run government work, right? I got ELB, right, which is an application load balancer. Are you running encryption in there? Is an encryption TLS 1.3 or higher, right? Not 1.2, not 1.1, not SSL3, right? It's got to be 1.2. I think it's got to be 1.3 now or higher, right? Do you have your architecture configured to run a FedRamp workload, which is a FedRamp assessment, right? That's why that position we saw made 263, right? You checking off on this, because if it doesn't work, you could get hacked and they're going to say, what was your assessment, right? So that's why those people get paid. Let's see what my man Calvin saying. The beauty of Milestone is that once you join, you can connect with others on different instances. We don't all need to be in the same master. Oh, that's cool. I might need to dig into that a little more. So you see that come out. Pen test is one way to combine programming, security, and almost all the other techs involves gaming merging as pen test. Now that's true. The only problem with that is, and I agree with you, cyber scientists, is most pen testers, they don't really program, so they don't really do application security, right? They scan it, they do vulnerability scan, but most pen testers, they don't do secure coding. Most pen testing looks for a vulnerability in your web server, your app server, or maybe you misconfigure something, they don't actually go through your whole program as an assessment, right? So that's kind of my only beef with pen testing, right? You did say merging it all. When I see pen testing, I usually just scanning for a certain vulnerability, and most pen tester has this certain thing they specialize in. We used to see that at DoD. This company specializes in API hacking, right? So we got the database misconfigured. They don't even look at that, right, Sam? Because they're trying to figure out the whole get in, get the flag, and get paid, right? For us, you had to get a data element in a database or get something off a database OS, and we know you got in the back end and got to the good stuff, right? So that's kind of my only beef with pen testing. I'm only focus on Java. You need to get to a better boot camp, JM. Those are good starts, though. Those are good starts. I'm thinking about going to. You were on there. I'm thinking about going to that AWS boot camp. I just want to get my foundation a little better. I applied for 3. I had an interview with 1, but I was told I'm still too green. I'm working on building my skills, and now, hey, everybody's green in certain areas. I may have to give up waiting on pen testing and find another area. So what did I hate when people tell you people that? So when they green, they want you to have more years of experience. Were you missing a certain technology? Were you missing both? What area did they think you were light on? Right. So when people say that, I usually kind of push them. Okay, what does that mean? Cloud works good if you have people who can validate your data secure and private, but people don't have the skills to validate their own stuff, much less facts on that. That's how I eat good, Calvin. You're 100% correct. And that's really a big part of GRCs right there. And that's really the hidden gem that's missing in the cloud. And I'm bad. Everybody wants to be a cloud engineer, cloud developer, DevOps, PM. There's just so many. But when you ask them about security, they be hurt. So I see a lot of security holes when I go look at stuff, right? And these are actually from certified engineers because once again, I've got 4 or 5. I got the security specialty domain. They go over it at a high level, but they don't. You don't really go into it, right? When I mean go into it, go to your DNS, look at your application load balancer, make sure your TLS is in there, and you're using a 2048 key that you imported into your web server, right? Those are the when you I call it getting dirty. When you roll up your sleeves, you get dirty. That's the stuff you look at from a security perspective. Yes, I was thinking about the hacker who wrote their own tools or modified tools, how to create a volatility plugin and scan memory dumps. No, I agree with that. I think that's just super rare, savage scientists. You're true. You're right. My thing though is, and I talked about this on another one of my streams, is Kali Linux, Onion, and all those tools are getting so good at scanning vulnerability and finding stuff. You can have shut out to you could be green and really not know what you're doing. You could use those scanning tools that are top notch now and easy to run, and you can break in websites so easy without really understanding anything about them. After my program is done, I'm going to deep dive. That's cool. Let me know if I can help you in any way when you deep dive. My name's gonna change back to science time. Facts. Oh, shout out to Metasploit. That's more of a game question. I see it used a lot. As a GRC, I don't use it, but a lot of red team guys we use part of Pentest. I see it used a lot. That'd probably be more a game question than me, but I think it's still relevant. Finding problems with things people have done is way easier than actually diving 10 toes deep and see how to abuse things, and most people exploit it. Facts. Now that's true. That's true. 1 to 2. Let's see. It's 2. Salute to before the billions. He's getting his Java class in there. Exploit is using incorrectly configured in all products. Abuse is finding the code and circumventing out. No, that's true. That's true. That's true. A lot of times I mix those up. No, that's true. Once again, I just think tools are so easier to use. Like you said, Metasploit, Kali Linux, Security Onions. There's just so many tools in there. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's still on deck too. So once again, let's get back at it. So from your FedRamp assessment, we would get our infrastructure model. So I usually ask this when I'm dealing with cloud software. I ask them what their AWS is. And two is this is going to kind of tell me what's their data flow. I like the locks. Let me know they're using SSL or some TLS down there. The RDS, we got replication. Hopefully there's some locks down there. So we're getting our encryption encrypted when we go into different availability zones. Each one of these EC2s should have encryption on their EC2s. When we're using their network storage on there, we want all that stuff encrypted. Usually there's an S3 bucket up somewhere we need encrypted. So all that stuff, right? We want to check it out. The two AWS has conformance packs. Conformance packs is just saying we're doing FedRamp. This is all the FedRamp checks. Run them against this infrastructure, right? And how they set it up. So AWS config, you see the special config pack and stacks right there. It'll actually run against your EC2s and put all your findings in the S3 bucket, right? See the bucket policies. It's going to check your EC2s, right? We were talking about queues. So it's going to run checks against all of those. Sorry about that. That's super small. So these are some of the checks. Remember we were talking about NIST, AC2 and AC1. The organization employs automatic mechanisms to support information system accounts. So it talks about using IAM, talks about using encryption keys, talking about permission management. So Amazon with those config packs has probably 1,000 checks to run against this to make sure your environment set up to do FedRAMP work, right? So now we're talking about compliance as code, right? That's really what we're trying to get to, right? So we can run AWS config. It's going to look at your network setting, your public access to see if you're exposed. It's going to check your licensing. It's going to check the data is encrypted at rest and in transit and in a database, right? We can run all those as checks and have compliance as code, right? And that's where we want to be. It's all good. That's cool. I know if I mixed them up or not. I've been good looking out, man. Good looking out. You be checking on me, man. So I thought you was checking on me. It's all good. Did I mix it up? Sometimes I'll be rambling. So that's what we want to get to, compliance as code. And remember when we saw that job 263, this is the stuff they want you to do, compliance as code, right? We're going to take those AWS config checks, put them in a Lambda, and we can run it against our infrastructure. Get a risk assessment. Remember, there was a security assessment report and a risk assessment report. The RAW, this is going to give us those reports where we run this, right? We're going to give these to the client. We can run this every month to figure out where we at. Sometimes Savage Scientist is so good, he wouldn't mess it up. But sometimes a developer can put out a release and break something. They might take encryption off for some by accident, right? So when we run compliance as code, we can check that to make sure nothing's changed. When you're talking about big infrastructure, you can have 1,000 EC2s, 20 S3 buckets, right? You got C# running, you got Java running at these different companies. When you do compliance as code, you can check on that at night and check all of that, right? We're not going to make any changes, right? We're just going to report on there. Like, oh, Savage, did you mean to make this change, right? And two, a lot of times in security, we could take Savage Scientists, what they're going to do is those README files, they're going to say, in this release, these things change. So when we do our compliance report, they should match up. Okay, this was supposed to change in this release. Did it change? If it didn't, did it not make release? Did something happen? Did it not go in right? Right. So those are things compliance is code. Because two is you, if not, you're gonna leave a lot of people doing that, right? So you want something automated to go through and check on all of that, right? And two, that's when you get at the top of the pyramid. You hit a button, and two, you don't even hit a button. It just wakes up at 1 a.m. and just starts running. Then if anything's out of sync, it sends something to the security team and the development staff. And two is it marks it. This is high, medium, or low, right? If it's high, right, we red alert. We need to get on it. One thing consider, JM, is it looks cheap, low cost PCs to use for all your testing stuff instead of your main system. Secondary stuff breaking is not too bad. Facts. Yeah, I wrote the thing. Shout out to Cyberside. Yeah, so sometimes it just happens, but with compliance as code too, is you helping the developer out. Because if they break something and it causes us to get hacked or something's not working, right? the compliance is called to be like, hey, what's going on? And two is the earlier we find it, the cheaper it is to fix. And right, a lot of times stuff like this too, we run it in development before it even gets put in production. Right, he's building this new code and testing it. We run a compliance to say, hey, this looks good or something's wrong with this, and running in production. So hopefully we got compliance code running in development and checking stuff too, right? So that's really where you wants to be, right? If you're not breaking things, are you really upgrade? That's what we try to get around. I normally do my testing on local VM, but security requires 12 gigabytes. Woo, that's a little bit. So yeah, so that's kind of two is when you get compliance as code, and hopefully, like you said, we get it caught in development before we break it in production. But like Savage, I done broke a few things in production, man, and got yelled at. So let's go back real quick to the, let's see, T's and Tim. So what we just talked about, compliance as code, is how you get that 263 right there. Establish credibility as a trusted advisor, architect for cloud architecture, provide U.S. cloud security and risk. That's what we were talking about, right? When we went to FedRamp, right? We went through the NIST, we went through the policies, we went through the guidance, right? We went through the sub families, right? We just started looking at compliance of code. We looked at architecture, right? Some of those were organization things and some of those were system things, right? So we're checking all that. That's how you get that TAM and that Black Heights money, right? PBO here bored, man. I feel like I'm poor, man, messing with them too. Nah, shout out to them. I always tease them. I'm sure I'm gonna be on their platform. I want them to know I'm talking about it, but now trying to get that 263, man. That's that next level type money. That's that fang type money, man. When you get stock options and everything with that. But once again, I just wanted to touch on FedRamp client. That's kind of what I do. One part of my job is once again getting people into FedRamp cloud, reviewing software, like they said, reviewing them, make sure and it's all FedRamp approved, encryption at rest, encryption in transit. Remember, we looked at the AWS architecture, make sure all that's tight, right? Two ways, right? We talked about getting a job or going through the agency. Most people go through an agency, right? I used to do a lot of IRS work, so I worked with the IRS agency, and that's what required us to do FedRamp. When I used to do IRS work, it's called IRS Pub 1075, which actually just sits on top of this, right? So let's see. I'll drop the link. Like I said, I took a little late lunch. It's a little slow today, so like let me jump on. I saw Savage Scientist put in work. B2B, he doing all them shorts, man. I gotta get my short game up there, man. Like B2B, I gotta start doing some shorts. So I'm trying to get up to my little 2,000 subscribers, man. So I'm getting close. So I'm on my grind. So, but that's it. Like I said, I just want to talk about a little GRC more. Once again, I think it's hitting. Let's see, check eBay, even local computer risk options for that you could pick up easily. Penny business talks about a system that works fine. Now that's true. A lot of people going out of business too and laying people off. So a lot of people gonna have a lot of extra hardware floating around. And so they releasing people. So me and B had a B and B2B had a good discussion. I thought that's why salaries, I wouldn't say going down, but they're leveling off because there's a lot of extra talent becoming available. And now with everybody being remote, right? You can get talent remotely and have it. Are you doing PBO at night today too? Nah, I don't think so. Probably tomorrow. Probably. I'm hoping to do. I'm going old school. I'm hoping to do Bill Gates tomorrow at 10. PBO at night. Hopefully tomorrow. Let me see how far I get down. I got to start it. They maybe do a little work this week, JM. So that's my goal. Yeah. Yeah, man. I saw that. Did you have YouTube grind and post it? Yeah, I saw that. I need to respond to that. Yeah, man. Getting to 2000 was hard, man. I think I'm at like 1937, 1930s. I was a hard 1000 this year, man. I was hoping to do a little better than that, but I think that's part of the grind. I think the algorithm puts you through that, Savage. I think the algorithm wants to know if you for real or not, especially in the tech world, man. So I don't know. I'm at to start talking about spicier subjects. I don't know, Savage Scientist. But I'm finally getting the two, man. That two was hard to get, man. So um I'm hoping to do more shorts, more lives, and just more video. Just being more consistent and just get on my grind. Just be more consistent. But yeah, I saw that. I really appreciate that YouTube grind sometimes. And two is, Eric, don't give up, people, man. Sometimes I'll be like, dude, I could just go work a part-time job and make more money. But I enjoy helping people. I enjoy people emailing me and tell them I helped them. What is up, man?
What's up, brother?
Can you hear? What's going on? You doing all right?
Can you? Oh yeah,
I can hear you breaking up just a little bit. I can hear you though.
I'm at the car dealership.
That's cool, man. You about to get that Bugatti, man? What you getting,
Man, last week for service, and they told me to. Then a day later, it was, so now I'm back.
No, that's cool. You breaking up a little bit though. I don't know what's up with your reception, but it's good to see you though, man.
It's on that I got, man. It's
Like I said,
yeah, man.
Cyber
I just
Scientist said you balling out
want
here.
the $30,000 Toyota.
Nah, I think. Hey, I'm right there with you, man. I'm easy out here, man. They laying too many people off of me, and I'm old, man. So, I don't want them to get me in the wash yet, man.
It was in the wash, man. All the words out. We're about to all be.
I'm trying, man. But I'm gonna drop you a little bit because you break it up a little, man. I'm barely picking you up, man.
I appreciate it.
All right, man. I'm about to have you up with your connections a little better. I've been doing lives on them and reading books with lives. I got a minimum of 12 books on hacking. The mindset is something I'm still working with. I think you're on your way. I wouldn't get discouraged, Ty, man. You just gonna in this business and especially me and Savage, you're gonna have good days and bad days, man. And some days you feel on top, the other days, it's like, man, I'm done. So uh oh, I agree with that, man. I agree with that. I agree with that, man. I definitely agree with that, man. I appreciate I had to jump on home with a better mic and heads. No, that's cool, Calvin. I appreciate you, man. Definitely come back. Yeah, I think that's a good move. So I should have thought of that. And two is you learn a lot, man. And two is I've actually I got my interview from AWS just from my YouTube channel, Ty. Now that my interview didn't go well, but I got one. I made it to the second round. But and two is that's why I do AWS a lot because I'm learning those modules. And once again, I wholeheartedly agree with Savage Scientists on that. That's one way you can have an active community behind your journey. And yeah, no, I agree, especially. Yeah, think about that time. And two is, I don't know, I've always been kind of out there. Two is a lot of people get nervous with public speaking. I've been doing that forever, so that didn't bother because I taught for 10 years. So me teaching on YouTube or just talking on YouTube, we were doing remote stuff at the college I was at. So for me, a lot of people get nervous when they did that. No, that's an excellent idea, Savage Scientist. Yeah, I do. Even on my long days, and I know Savage Scientists be there. I do a killer video and I get 20 views. It hurts my feelings sometimes, but that's part of the grind, man. That's part of life, man. And two is, especially when I do AWS, I'm doing those videos too because I'm really delving into those components and learning. So even if I don't get a ton of views, I'm still getting some out of it personally and professionally. Oh, you good to go, Ty? Me and Savage Scientists ready to be your first 2 subscribers in, Ty. You need to jump on that, man. I just started off with my phone, man. I just started talking to my phone. So, man, you got a mic and a laptop, man. You can do OBS, Streamlabs. There's a lot of good free software out there to get started, man. I bought my thumbnail templates for $100 from Roberto Blake. He one of the top how to grow your channel guys. So I need to get better still with my thumbnails. So yeah, no, I'll help you. I'm volunteering Savage Scientists to help you. I'm volunteering B2B. He much better than me. He in here. He'll help you. He got the whole set up with the sound. I think Savage got the sound. I'm behind. I'm gonna get my circle light for Christmas for myself. Shout out to me. I'm gonna get a circle light for me. I got my PBO sign in the back. Somebody bought me with the hot white lights. Shout out to PBO. Shout out to me. uh, So I'm gonna get up out of here. Like I said, I took a longer lunch. Come check me out. I'm hoping to be on tomorrow. You should see the thumbnail. I'm going to old school for some reason. I want to talk about Bill Gates, and I was going to talk about Nardelli, his CEO that actually ran Azure before he became president. So I'm gonna do Bill, and I probably do my man Nardelli. Bill Gates missed that whole cloud thing, and Nardelli saved him on the back end, right? So definitely talk about those two guys. Hey, that's how you build, man. You should be attacking stuff, man. We need to maybe we'll do a collab. I'll do a hard AWS infrastructure that you can attack it, Ty. We just got to get a letter to Amazon to make sure they know. So we'll throw any red lights out. So yeah, I'm out. Peace out. Go check out my man Savage Scientist. He put his link in there. Oh, facts. I forgot you were in Seattle. You know, I know he the man out there. He worldwide. Once again, it's Professor Black Ops. Happy Monday. Let's get it. Let's get some of that TAM money, that Women in Linux. Go check them out. Check out my man B2B was in the house. Go check him out. PBO out. Hope to see your channel soon, Todd. Get on it. We'll help you.